What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Piston Mike. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't cost anything, not even a nickel or dime. Shout out to Alex for always keeping me updated. Cut the link in the description for your cool piston gear. We're going to talk about something. It's the 2024 NBA draft really that bad? Am I tripping? I'm going to get a special guest named Steve. He does a lot of great work at Razzball Pod. Absolutely love his pod. He breaks down the depth. He breaks down the sleepers. But I'm just not too impressed with this draft. I don't really think there's a victory win by Yama. I don't think there's necessarily a really good NBA player in this draft. I just don't see no Victor. I don't see no Chet. I don't see no Paolo Banchero or no Jabari Smith type of player in this draft that really will help the Pistons take another level. It's just in my opinion. You guys let me know if you think so. I'm not a big Zachary. I think Zachary Richie is okay. I think the same for Ron Holland. I think the same for a lot of these people, but I don't know how necessarily good I think any of these guys is. So, but me, to my boy Steve, we're going to talk about this draft. I'm going to add him in here. Let's see if I can add him in here. And we're going to get this done, but make sure you go check out Razzball Pod. We're going to talk about, is the NBA draft really that bad? If not, you know, are there some steals? Are there some sleepers? Do I think so? Yes. But is there some superstar talent? I don't know about that. I don't necessarily know. But, you know. So, yeah. We're going to see if I can get Steve in here. He's unable to join right now. All right. So, the first prospect I want to get into is Alex Sarr. I just don't really think. I mean, do I think he's talented? Yes, but do I think he's on the same level as a Jabari Smith, Alex Sarr, um, type of guy? Not really. Even Paolo Banchero, anybody else? Nah, not really. Um, he was averaging 9 points. He played at OTE last year. 9 points, I believe 6 boards, only shooting around 29-30% from three. People think he's really a stretch big. I don't believe that. I buy more Tyler Smith. I'm more of a Tyler Smith guy. That true four that the Pistons need. But yeah, here goes Steve. Let's see if Instagram might act a little weird. Instagram might act, if Instagram keep on acting up, I might have.
What's up?
Merc, what's up with you?
Well, I just having a little technical difficulties here, but you know how it goes.
Oh, good. It's all good. Just glad to have you. We were, supposed to be doing some live, but we here now. We're doing it. I'm here to enjoy. No, nothing else. the legend himself. We got Steve in the business. He gonna break it down better than me. He gonna do it better than me. He got the numbers already in his head. I can already see him working. But make sure you go check out his podcast, Ball Pod. Phenomenal job. Love his pod. He's probably got one of the best pods out there. If you want to talk Pistons or the draft, he's got it.
Appreciate the kind words. So I just dropped episode 99 last night. So go check that out. About to hit 100. Next episode will be 100.
Next episode will be 100. Make sure y'all go check that out, man. I'm for real. I love his podcast. I listen to it when I'm driving for work or laundry. Sometimes I put on that Ball Pod, man. Listen to it. So, yeah. I want to start off saying, how good do you think this draft is compared?
I think it's going to be all right. I don't think it's going to be like the best in the world. I think the thing that sucks the most is that it follows Victor Wembanyama in that draft. So, like, maybe the best prospect ever. It's always going to be a letdown the next year. And then the number one pick this year, honestly, nobody knows who it is yet. I think that's the big part of it. And I've joked behind the scenes that, like, you don't want the top 5 pick, but you want, like, everything after that. Because that's the part of it. Is everything after that, there are going to be a lot of solid contributors. And there are a lot of guys you can make the case for being, like, 10-year vets. So I think it's going to be good in terms of depth. But, man, up top, I don't know yet. I don't know that there's anybody so far that really, like, 10 years from now, you're going to look back and be like, oh, yeah, they're an all-NBA player now.
I would absolutely agree. I think this draft is going to be more of the upperclassmen draft that contributor roles than I do think freshmen that come into the NBA contribute right away. That's what draft I think. I think me personally, if I'm the Pistons, I'm thinking about trading the pick, depending on where it lands. If it lands at 5, I would trade the pick, or I would trade back in this draft. I would not. I don't know. I don't think I would necessarily keep the pick right there. I just wouldn't. But,
Yeah, I think that's the hard part is, like, trying to find who's going to take the pick. Like, that, again, like I just laid out, I think a lot of people feel that way. Top 5, I don't know that I want to take a chance on these guys. But down below, sure. I think it's going to take somebody like Washington, maybe, who, like, has no direction. They have no clear, like, the guy right now. So maybe they would if they fall below the Pistons, but they could also get the number 1 overall pick. So we'll see how that goes.
so, which prospects do you think are the best prospects in this draft?
So far, my top tier, quote unquote, is Ron Holland, Nikola Topic, Alex Sarr, Cody Williams, and Risa Shea. And Risa Shea to me is, like, kind of, I begrudgingly put him there only because his production has been so great. He shot the ball so well. But I don't really believe in him over those other guys. Everybody else at least has flashed, like, major lead, either on offense like Alex Sarr. I mean, either on defense like Alex Sarr or on offense like Nikola Topic. And then Holland, Cody Williams have just flashed an all-around skill set that really is just missing shooting. That if they had shot the ball all year, it would be easily the number 1 pick. And that's part of why Cody's gained more traction as the number 1 guy in, like, the past month. He hasn't shot a ton of threes, which makes me, like, just pause for that. But he shot a very good percentage in that low volume, so it's part of why everybody's starting to push him on more, because they're like, hey, he pressures the rim. You see him guard Isaiah Collier the other night, hold his own, really give him problems with that length, and he just does everything else well. Ditto for Ron Holland, who unfortunately shut it down for the year, but he's got probably worse shooting concerns. I mean, nonstop competitor, takes defense seriously, constant competitive, can put pressure on the rim, free throws, budding passer, a lot to like there. If I had to bet on one, I mean, it's probably Ron Holland, only because I dig the attitude. He's just always been able to compete. I just find it hard to believe he's not going to find a way, not going to find a role that's going to be a good thing on a team. I don't know if the shooting ever comes around. I'll keep it real, but everybody else to me has bigger red flags, like Topic, not a great athlete. I haven't seen what he looks like on a major club now, and I don't know if that scoring translates. If he doesn't create at a high level with the ball in his hands, I don't really know what else he does. Alex Sara, I don't buy into the shooting. He's very slight. I don't really buy into him being more than like a role guy on offense. And then if his strength and lack of rebounding really do become a thing in the NBA, I mean, he's a backup then. And then Cody, again, doesn't shoot, isn't really a lead scorer right now. The potential is there, but you could see him be like Trevor Ariza or something like that also. And then Shea, the big reason why Shea to me doesn't profile well is he doesn't create for himself pretty much at all. And the 3-point percentage looks great, but the free throw percentage, he struggles to stay over 70%. And that's one thing to me. If there's too big of a gap between your 3-point numbers and your free throw numbers, like I just can't buy into you as a shooter. I've been studying this for a while and doing research into seeing players who like have a bad free throw percentage but are still good shooters. And the only guy I've ever been able to pull is Bruce Bowen, who like maintained the percentage from three, but really struggled from the line, like under 60% a lot of times. And Shea, it's under 70%. Again, it's not a good combination, and it just makes me say like, I think I'll pass up on you and go for somebody else.
Yeah, like I could be wrong. It seems like there's always these March Madness guys that always get it popping. There's always one or two or three. But is it right now? The guys that impress me most, like you said, there's a lot of guys at the top that huge red flags, but there's been a couple guys that really impressed me, and it's like way far back, like in the lottery, early 20s. Like the one guy that has surprised me that I like over recent sim, is a guy who's been, he's at Kansas, I think his name Johnny Furphy or
Yeah, yeah.
whatever.
Furphy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's a very interesting guy to me. I like his, I, the strength and the build. I think I can, also get strength. I like his shoot. He's okay defensively, nothing special, but I like his shoot. I don't like we have a big March Madness run, but he's a guy who really intrigued me, and I kind of do for the G League tonight. The other guy. It's not the
The
Tyler
Zealous?
Smith. I like Tyler Smith.
Oh, Tyler Smith, yeah.
That's just an interesting guy. But besides that, yeah, I'm not. Alex Sarr is really good, but everybody thinks he's a stretch big, and like you just said, he's not a stretch big at all. People think that the Pistons should draft him and take him at the power forward. I'm like, I don't know about that. And the I agree with the Zachary Ricochet and the rest of them guys that you said that they got big red flags, and I just think the guys that I named where they at, I think I would trade back and try to get one of them guys. Maybe I'm tripping, you know.
Yeah, the Sar discourse for the Pistons is weird. Like, I get it because people like him. But, I mean, do you know the last time he made more than one three-pointer in a game? October 13th, 2023. I mean, he's taken them too. He just hasn't made more than one since then. He's made one just in a couple different games, but that's another red flag to me. That's like, man, if you're not able to knock down multiple threes in a game, I just can't buy into you as a shooter. Defense and everything else looks great. He's as good as advertised on defense. Don't get me wrong there, but yeah, anybody like wanting to bring him to the Pistons, like, sure, believe in his shooting, but it's going to take a long time. And then, like, really, you want to bring in that guy And so you can't play him and Star and Durham together. Then forget that. Throw that out. That's not going to happen within the first year or two, maybe even year three. And then the night that Ivy or Kate are first, like you're just asking for trouble in that. Or unless you want to trade away Jalen Durham, which honestly is a legitimate possibility. So if you say, hey, we'll trade Durham for like a big time shooter or something, and then bring in Sar, okay, that makes more sense. But putting Sar and Duran together, it's not going to work out. It's not going to be what's best for both of them, in my opinion. And Sar's projection as a 3-point shooter, again, I'm not going to come up here and say he's never going to do it, but it's a long ways away. When you can't make multiple threes in a game consistently, it's going to take a while.
Okay. Just a couple more questions I want to ask you, Steve. If you were the Pistons, and let's just say in the last 2 years we fall down to 5. Let's just say we fall down to 5 again. What would you do with the pick?
I mean, that's when I really would try to trade it for reals. I mean, I don't know how many takers I would get for it, but if I could get 2 picks and then, get some shooters there, that'd be great. Keeping it real though, like they probably have to keep 5, and then it really depends on who is there. I mean, I would hope Cody Williams is there because at least he has an enticing all-around skill set. I might take Ron Holland, but I also think that's a bad idea. He's probably not playable with Asar and Duran as well. I mean, this is really where you start to think about guys like kobeWalter or, again, like Furphy. That's probably too high for Furphy, but these guys that are like legitimate knockdown 3-point shooters, I mean, you're probably looking at not necessarily overdrafting, but starting to think about somebody like Tyler Smith. Like, that's a huge wild card. You brought him up, but he's consistently shot the ball really well. This team has talked about needing like a stretch 4. He's young. He's a freshman age. He'll be like 19, 20 next year. It makes total sense. Something like that is probably the route I would go at 5 if I couldn't trade down, because, again, everybody else here seems like too big of a risk. And the difference to me between like Luis Shea and Tyler Smith is like Tyler Smith, I don't need to put pressure on him right away to be good. He's already got the skill set that I want that's lined up. Whereas Luis Shea, like, pretty much throwing him out there to the wolf and be like, you have to be the small forward starter. You have to be able to maintain that 3-point percentage right away. And Ignacio Rosado of No Ceilings and FIBA and Pro Insight was on my podcast recently. He's probably the best international scout out there in the NBA draft, Twitter space and online space. And he said the same thing of like, Luis Shea's shooting is good, but you can't expect him to come in and just take over. If you already have shooters around him, then you can work him in easier. But Detroit, in his words, Detroit just has a bad history of turning good shooters into mediocre shooters and turning mediocre shooters into bad ones. It's not a good spot for him.
I would definitely agree with everything you said. The one thing I would do is, let's just say somebody gives me like, let's just say the OKC give me 10 or 12, 10 to 12, 10 to 13. That's what picks they got. Let's just say they want to trade up and get Cody Williams because it's Jalen Sam Williams' brother. Let's just say, Steve. Let's just say it might happen. You never know. Let's just say, right? The 2 guys I would probably take. I would double up on the shooting. I would take Johnny Murphy, and Tyler Smith. That would be my 2 picks for the Pistons. Double up on the shooting. If you want to, you can bring Furphy along slowly. I think Tyler Smith can be the 4. His defense is kind of wonky, but I think eventually he could be an okay, solid defender, an okay, solid team defender. But everything else, he's gonna be that 3rd option guy who can put the ball on the floor a little bit, but mainly he's gonna be able to shoot threes. So
yeah, I mean, I've said this on the pod recently. Like, they just can't mess around anymore. They just need to bring in shooters. Like, that has to be the mandate. Either another like super defensive ace center or shooters. Like that's all you need because they're really hurt at centers. You know, Duran's taken a couple steps back, not even averaging one block per game this year. That needs to be something. And then again, just load up on shooters. Caden Ivey needs shooters. Duran and Assard need shooters. They just need shooters.
So another question. Um, you think we need centers? If there are any centers in this draft, do you think Pistons should take a gamble if they were to get a second pick?
Yeah, in that scenario where you get 10 and what did you say, like 13 or something like that? I mean, I would take Ryan Dunn. Ryan Dunn's an anomaly. I think he's a center. He's 6'8", like 216. I think he can bulk up like 220. Over one steal per game, over 2 blocks per game. I mean, he just had 8 blocks, I think, against Wake Forest the other night. Let me see here. I know it was something like 7 or 8 blocks, but he like just made sure that he's going to be in a nightmare to the foreseeable future. I don't like to give this comp because I think that he's a one of one player ever, but I see a lot of Ben Wallace and Ryan Dunn. I mean, undersized center, somebody that people like don't believe in. Ben Wallace told this famous story of when he went to the Celtics camp. They like tried to line him up at the guard spot, and he was like, "No, I'm not having that." Dunn is a lot similar. People keep trying to put him in small forward and then knock his shooting, and it's like his shooting's not an issue if you just keep him as a big man, which he's a really good big man. He plays center for Virginia right now. Yeah, when he played Wake Forest, he had 7 blocks. The game before that against Pitt, he had 5 blocks. NC State, he had 6 blocks. Earlier in the year, he had 5 blocks against Texas A&M, and then he had 4 blocks against Texas Southern. I mean, he's just a defensive monster. He has to make up for the fact that they don't have another center, really. He's the tallest guy a lot of times. And then the biggest player he plays with in the starting lineup is 185 pounds. Everybody else is 185 pounds and lighter. He's got to be the primary wing defender and the center. I mean, he's just put up monstrous defensive production. He's somebody I just wouldn't overthink because I think I heard this recently on the No Ceilings podcast where Corey Tulloh was like, I think we're overthinking Ryan Dunn and like the lack of offense because look at the defensive production. I agree 100% with that. You just don't see defensive numbers like this. 2.3 blocks per game, 1.4 steals per game. He's also a very good rebounder, pulling in 7 per game. He's shooting something like 70% at the rim. I can tell you those numbers here real quick. Let's see, shooting. Yeah, exactly 70% at the rim. So 63 of 90. Keep him as a screen and roll guy. He's a pretty good passer too. Let him develop there. And then let him run on defense. Keep him at center, keep him at power forward. At the bare minimum, I think this is somebody like a Paul Reed or like a Brandon Clark, where they maintain really good defensive ability, even if they're your backup and other teams will want to sign him away. So like Ryan Dunn would be the center that I really would. And a lot of people don't think he's a center, but I think he's a center. He's the one that I would like push in all the chips for and take a 10 and then take another shooter at like 13. And again, Dunn's ability would really make it clear in camp and in the games like where Duran is at and if that can be salvaged or not on defense.
Yeah, yeah, I will agree. I know who Ryan Dunn is. He's probably one of the best defenders I've seen in a long time. The dude is definitely animal. Him and R, you know what I'm saying, would definitely help the Pistons out.
Oh yeah.
You want to turn into, you know what I'm saying, the old J Pistons, you know what I'm saying, locking stuff down, we would definitely lock teams down. So I wouldn't mind that at all. I think that would be very interesting actually. That would be intriguing. I doubt the Pistons will do it though. They don't
Yeah.
do it though. They ain't got the because it would make a lot more sense even if you wanted to have him as a backup center, just somebody who come off the bench and block shots and cause havoc on the defensive end. That would even make sense because we've all seen it. When Jalen Duran goes out, them teams get to doing layup lines. The defense falls off a cliff. You know what I'm saying? It's already not great when he gets in, but when he goes out, man, it's horrible. It's like a layup.
I
So
Yeah, absolutely. They gotta bring up some of them.
mhm. The other the other guys I wanted to bring up since you mentioned center. What is your thought on? I believe his name is Donovan Clingan, and what's the dude from Baylor? Eve Messi.
He's Messi.
Yeah.
I like Messi more than Klingon, but it's because I think Messi is more mobile and he has a little bit more like stamina, I guess. The Klingon's worrisome. I mean, the block numbers are really good. Walker Kessler is going to be the comp because the block numbers are so good. He's like over 2 per game, like Ryan Dunn. But Clayton's also been played off the court. Like Dylan Mitchell made him look ridiculous because he couldn't keep up with Dylan Mitchell, and he was really limited in that game. And then Seton Hall did the same thing with a mobile big. Klingon couldn't hang. There have been games where he's been played off the floor. I still think his shot blocking is really good. And I do think he could be a Walker Kessler type, but I don't remember Kessler getting played off the court like that so easily. And I do think it more has to do with conditioning because he's hopping and popping a little bit too much. I think he gained a little bit too much weight over the off season. And the other part of it is he's just not as mobile, and teams are starting to take advantage of that as well. But you talk about the March Madness guys, he could be one that like has a monster tournament and then he's back in the lottery. Right now he's still kind of teetering on that edge. I'm sure he still has fans, but if he has a really big March Madness, like honestly, top 10 still not out of the question for Donovan Clingan because again, the Walker Kessler comp is so easy to make.
Um, who do you think the Pistons? What are your top? Let's just say three players that the Pistons should target in this draft. Top three.
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot here. Oh yeah. Oh man, I think it's probably Cody Williams at the top spot, just because again he does everything well except shoot. Pistons obviously need shooting, but everybody else there, Ron Harlan, like the shooting is too far out. Kopich needs the ball. You can't have another guy who needs the ball like that. Thar and Duran are a bad fit unless you're trading away Duran. You can't take Sar. And then again, Risa Shea is like there's just he's just not a good fit because he needs to be the primary spacer, which is a role he's not ready for. I think the other one's Tejan Salon. I mean, I don't know that anybody would take him in the top 5, but 6'9", like shot creator that has really good defensive skills. He's a super big wild card, super long term project. But I mean, he shoots the ball well. He's been a consistent shooter the last 3 years. He's getting better on defense, and he can create his own shot at 6'9". That's the kind of guy you need to be able to, take a bet on in a draft where everybody's like, I don't know about the potential here. And the other one, honestly, the other one's a toss-up for me between Reed Shepherd and Aaron Bradshaw. Aaron Bradshaw is the super wild card. His production has not been good at all. Coach Cal has just not wanted to play him, but his shooting does look legit. He's the guy, the kind of big, that if you watch the Peach game, you're like, oh, that's a guy that could play next to Duran, who's able to knock down the three, who's mobile, who can be weak side rim protector. But again, you look at the production, it's just not there. But Coach Cal's famous for not letting his bigs take threes. I mean, even Carl Anthony Towns, he did not let shoot threes, so that factors into it. And this Kentucky team has just gone small ball all year, with like Justin Edwards at the 4 and Thierry Garland at the 4. So Don just hasn't been able to find a shot. And then Reed Shepherd's the other one who, like, his production is so ridiculous. He's still shooting 50% from 3. He's still getting a ton of steals. He's still a really good block machine at the guard position. I don't want the Pistons to go small, but I mean, like, you can't pass up that kind of shooter and defender for a team that is just severely lacking that. And even if Ivy's long-term potential is, like, coming off the bench, then you can platoon those 3, Shepherd, Ivy, Cade, and then, Shepherd can be the starter, and then Ivy can come in and keep putting pressure on the rim and pressure on the defenses in second unit. Or you can start all 3 of them together if you really do want to go that small route, which at this point you can't rule out anything for the Pistons. And again, Reed Shepherd, that production, 50% three-point shooter, tons of steals and blocks, great defender, great competitor. I think that's the other guy that probably should really think about targeting.
I know who Steve Pelletier is. Is definitely really A lot of people expectations. I don't think people think he was gonna be necessarily that, but he's really impressed. Really great shooter and great defender, as you said. But the dude that yeah, I remember Aaron Bradshaw. He came off of foot surgery, and
Yeah.
he was looking really good for a couple games, and then I ain't seen people, scouts been post him, so I guess he ain't been getting a lot of play time, which makes sense because he looked like one of the guys, like what everybody think Alex Sarr is supposed to look like. Actually, that was looking like Aaron Bradshaw possibly could
Yeah.
be that guy. But Tizon Salon is another interesting French wing that I know I've seen people really like on the radar. I like him. He's interesting, but he's a very more long term, like you said. What's up with these French wings, man? They can't coming out of it seems like every time, what I'm saying, I'm seeing all these French wings, they're just coming out of nowhere. So
Yeah.
um another guy that I do like, they call him. They say he's a guard, but what is your thoughts on Keyshawn George out of Miami?
I mean, he's a guy that you can just shoot threes. He can handle the ball a little, but other than that, like I would personally, if I were advising him, tell him to go back to school. He's not physically ready. Like he gets pushed around pretty easily. He probably is only limited to shooting guard right now, but the shooting ability is second to none. Over 40%. There are a lot of these guys from Europe that came over to the NCAA for the NIL money and get a shot for more exposure here. He's the only one that's actually like stood up and had a role for himself. And he's like 6'8", so 6'8" guy that shoots over 40% from three. Keeping it real, he's probably going to get a first round like promise from somebody. If the Pistons did end up getting extra pick at the end of round one, he's one of those guys that it's like you got to just roll the dice and take a chance on because they need that kind of shooter. They need that guy that's that tall. Physically, he's not ready, but we're not ready either. So why not take the chance because we need to.
Yeah. There's only one more question I want to ask to get out of it, and we can wrap up this. Who are some of the guys that you think potentially can have a big March Madness, big break?
I mean, any of the UConn guys, Stephon Castle, Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer, Don McClingan, they're the favorites to win the title again. Whoever has the big win is going to get the boost, and especially if it's either Castle or Klingan, yeah, they're absolutely going to shoot up the board. Other than that, I guess I don't know that people are going to buy into him because I've still been like the only guy still on the Caleb Love bandwagon. But I feel like if he gets Arizona up in there, he's going to be another guy that people are like, oh yeah, I remember Caleb Love because he did it before and that got him a lot of draft buzz. And he's been really good at conference play and been more efficient, which is the big knock on him there. Outside of that, it probably is Furphy or one of the Duke guys like McCain. McCain's probably the only guy out of the freshmen that's really been Jared McCain. At Duke has been the only freshman that's really been like for them this year, and he's a really good shooter. I mean, if he just shoots the lights out March Madness, that's definitely it. But if I had to bet, it's probably Furphy because he's already starting to gain traction. And then if he can just fill that role as the shooter and maybe do a little bit more, and Kansas makes another run, which they're more than capable of, obviously, then yeah, it's probably Furphy, followed closely by Clayton or Castle.
There's one more, Steve. I promise I'm gonna let you go. Which upperclassmen do you think has the highest upside or getting slept on the most in this draft?
Man, I got to think about that one for a minute. Highest upside. There's a couple floating around in my mind, but let me, because you said highest upside. So I'm trying to think who's the guy that I'm like, yeah, if they just do one or two more things, I can see it. You said most slept on.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know if it's this guy, but he's one that like I wasn't a big believer on, but the more I see him, the more I'm like, you know what? Like I think he can be like a starter. And that's Devin Carter out of Providence. Like he's really been a three-level scorer this year. Really worked on that three-point shot. I mean, he's rescued them from pretty much irrelevance because Bryce Hopkins did really well last year, but he just hasn't done anything this year. Switching over from Ed Cooley to former Piston Kim English. Shout out Kim English. They've been 18-9 this year, and Devin Carter's led the way. 19.3 points per game, 55.9% from 2-point range, 39.6% from three on 6.5 attempts per game, and then 72.3% from the free throw line. Over 8 rebounds, over 3 assists per game. I mean, he pressures the rim. He takes a ton of threes, and he makes a ton of threes, and then he's able to get to the free throw line. I really like the rim pressure, getting the free throw line was something he always did. It was the 3-point numbers that always kind of held him back, and people didn't think he could ever be a shooter. I mean, this is the first year where he shot over 29.9% from three. So if he can do all three of those things, again, somebody that you can buy into as a bench scorer at the very least, and then if the defense holds up 6'3", 188, like the Jalen Brunson type is not out of the realm of possibility. I don't know if he'll get to that level because Brunson is such an anomaly, but the body type, the size, the playmaking, the ability to score from all three levels, yeah, he's probably somebody that's being slept on a lot.
Guy that I'm gonna name that I don't think many people name. He plays at BYU. His name is Jackson Robinson. I think he's 6'7", 195 pounds. I know he had some pretty wonky games. He was gaining traction, but I'm still a believer because he's averaging 13 points. I believe he's shooting about 36, 37 from three. I believe he puts up about like 5 attempts a game. I really like Jackson Robinson, and he is a senior, but he will only be 21 on draft night. So I like him a lot. I think he's talented. I think he's a shooter. He'd probably be a two-way guy, but I think he's very slept on. I think if he has a big March Madness, because I know BYU's been good, so
Mm-hmm.
I think he could rise up for sure.
Yeah, the whole BYU team's been slept on in 19-7, and Jackson Robinson's the leading scorer. So yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. But thank you, Steve. It's been wonderful having you. Wonderful for your insight.
Boys,
Let them
man.
um, let them know where they can find you at, and let them know when your next podcast, this 100th podcast, is gonna come out.
So yeah, it's at Resball on Twitter, at Resball Pod on Twitter, at Resball Pod on Instagram. Although I'm going to start calling it Zitter. Somebody said that recently, combining the X and Twitter. So at Resball Pod on Zitter and on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel I've done like very sparingly off and on. I'm trying to get that going probably more over the summer. I also have the Substack, resball.substack.com. I'm about to post the big board first big board for this year today or tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. And then the 100th episode, probably sometime this weekend. It depends on when my co-host Andy, aka Dad Driven Piston Fan, or Jam at Jam on the Boards is going to record with me. So we'll see what happens there. But appreciate you having me as always, man. It's always a good time.
Oh, no problem, man. And if you need help on YouTube, if I'm gonna save, some of these videos and stuff. What I could start doing is, if you want to, man, I would join your podcast and you could just add my name, whatever. You could just have the stuff like that. I really don't mind. So just let me know. But I will help you, get a lot of views. I will help you share it. I know people who will share it. So, it's always a pleasure. But until next time, have a good one, man. Stay blessed. Much love, peace, and positivity, bro. All right.